So we were looking at the reporting map a bit earlier. One of the useful things that you can do on the student maps is include previous year's data or semester's data, which we've seen, but also have another column in gradExpert that shows the growth, i.e. the difference between last semester and this semester. Has the student actually increased their learning? So what you can see over here is we've got their English writing result from 2017 semester 1, then semester 2 as read-only. And we know it's read-only because the column headings are grayed out. When the column headings are in black text, we know they're editable. When they're in grey text, we know they're view-only. So this student who is that, Walter, went from a 1.5 to a 2 to a 2.5. So this column that shows their growth is just the difference between the two test results. And this can be for any test. This can be NAPLAN 2017 to 2019. This can be PM reading from term 1 to term 2. Or maths from 2017 semester 1, or term 1 to 2019 term 1. And this growth can then also be graphed. So for example, growth in English reading and viewing, English writing, and I'll include growth there and graph those three. So this is now showing us, irrespective of the first test or the second test, just showing us the amount of growth each student has had. And you can see some students have had half a year's growth. Gordon has had the most growth there, and other students have had no growth. And this is really useful on a map view because you haven't had to generate graphs. You've simply added one column, added the second column, or the one test and the second test, and then shown the growth between them. And the way we set that up, I'll just show you that quickly. Let's go to our Reading 2020 Semester 1. Basically, we need two identical columns with the different date options next to each other. So I'm just going to right-click and duplicate that row. I'm going to make the first one 2019 term 1 and the second one 2020 term 1 because I want to see the growth from 2019 to 2020. So we need three columns. We need the first test, the second test, and the growth column. So to add the growth column, after the second test, we click on the second test, and then this little drop-down button on the Add Assessments to Map gives us access to a whole lot of other items we can put on a map. So I'm just going to choose Add Growth. And then you get another row that says, this is where the student growth between the previous two assessments in the map will be shown. Let's have a look at how that map looks. So for example, if the term 1 level was 1 and the term 1 level in the next year is 1, they've only had growth of 1. If the student started on a 1, it is now a 9. If they started on a 2, if they started on 11, if they started on 12, you can see they've gone backwards. So as you're typing in your scores, the growth or the effect size can be calculated automatically, and you can then chart that quite easily. So if I click that item and I say graph that, this is giving me the relative growth for that group of students from test 1 to test 2. So this is telling us that Jerry G has had the most growth, all the way down to Roslyn, who's actually gone backwards for that particular test. So adding growth into your student maps allows you to take the data that you've got and immediately see students who've made growth or haven't made growth. It's one thing to do the teaching, it's another thing to work out if that's having an effect, which you measure by looking at test 1 and test 2 and how much growth has occurred between them.